The crystal beings of Prime had never felt true fear until today. Their bodies made of living minerals sang in harmony across their world, but now their songs carried only terror. High Resonator stood in the central communication chamber, watching the readings with growing horror. "The Harvester moves closer," reported, her crystal form flickering with distress patterns. "Our defense fleet, they are gone. All 17 ships destroyed in less than 10 minutes." His body shifted from blue to deep red, the color of despair among his people. Through the chamber's viewing port, he could see the thing approaching their world. It looked like a mechanical moon, covered in moving parts and strange lights. Massive arms reached out from its surface, already touching the edge of their atmosphere. "Send the alert," commanded. "Broadcast to every species in the galaxy. Tell them what comes for us." The message went out across the stars, carried by quantum waves that traveled faster than light. It reached the elegant ethereal courts first, beings of pure energy who lived in space stations near the galactic core. They read the message with their collective consciousness and felt sadness. "The Harvester," whispered their prime consciousness. "We have records of this machine. It destroyed the Empire 12,000 years ago. Nothing can stop it." The courts began their calculations. Even at maximum speed, their fastest ships would need 4 days to reach the outer rim where Prime waited for death. They had only 3 days. The mathematics were clear: rescue was impossible. The message reached the Draconian Empire next. These proud reptilian warriors had conquered half their galaxy armed through strength and honor. General or read the alert on his command ship and roared with frustration. "A worthy enemy," he growled to his officers. "The ancient war machine would make a glorious battle, but—" He looked at the tactical display showing ship positions. "Our nearest battle group is 6 days away. We cannot reach them in time." The Synthetic Confederacy received the message in their vast computer networks. Artificial minds processed the information in microseconds. They ran 1,000,000 simulations and reached the same conclusion as everyone else. "Probability of successful rescue, 0.0001%, announced Central Processing Unit Delta 9. "They will be extinct before any galactic fleet arrives. We express regret for this unavoidable loss." One by one, each major galactic power sent their responses to Prime. All carried the same message: sympathy but no help. The distances were too great, the time too short, the enemy too powerful. On Prime, they began to sing their death songs. But in a distant part of the galaxy, near the dangerous outer rim where few civilized beings dared to go, a human fleet picked up the signal. Captain Sarah sat in the command chair of the UES Indomitable, reading the translated message on her display. Around her, the bridge crew of the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet worked at their stations. These humans had been patrolling the edge of known space for 6 months, watching for pirates and exploring new star systems. "Captain," said Lieutenant from the communications station, "we're getting responses from the major powers. They're all saying the same thing: too far, too dangerous, impossible to reach in time." Studied the tactical display. The showed as a red dot in the outer spiral arm. Next to it, a larger red symbol marked the approaching Harvester. Numbers scrolled across her screen: distance, time, fleet capabilities. "How long to reach them at maximum speed?" she asked. Navigation officer worked at his console. 96 hours at flank speed, Captain. That's 24 hours too late." The bridge went quiet. Everyone understood the math. They were closer than any other fleet, but still not close enough. Looked around at her crew. These men and women had followed her through 3 years of dangerous missions. They had fought pirates, rescued stranded colonists, and explored worlds where the very air could kill them. They were human children of Earth, though that had made them tough. "Sir," asked Commander, her first officer. "Orders." Thought about the message from Prime. Millions of crystal beings waiting for death. An entire species about to be wiped out while the galaxy watched and did nothing. Set course for Prime, she said. Maximum burn, all ships to follow. Captain said carefully, we can't make it in time, even if we push the engines beyond safety limits. I said maximum burn, Lieutenant. The bridge crew looked at each other. They had served with Captain long enough to know that tone. She had made her decision. Aye, Captain replied. Course laid in for Prime, all ships report ready. Signal the fleet, ordered. We're going to save those crystal people. Across the human fleet, 18 ships began turning toward the distant. Their engines glowed brighter as power increased beyond normal levels. The humans were attempting something the rest of the galaxy had already declared impossible. In the vast monitoring stations of the major powers, technicians watched in amazement as the human fleet changed course. They cannot reach in time, said High Ethereal L. Do they not understand mathematics? General Or studied his displays with growing respect. The attempt the impossible. There is honor in this, even if they fail. The Synthetic Confederacy simply updated their records. Human fleet proceeding to Prime. Estimated arrival, 96 hours. Extinction, 72 hours. Humans display typical disregard for logical analysis. On Prime, they detected the approaching human fleet, felt his crystal body shift to a confused green color. They come, he told the High Council. They heard our call, they try to save us. But they cannot arrive in time, said Elder. They will witness only our destruction. Looked up at the sky where the harvester grew larger each hour. Then they will sing our death song with us. No species has ever done that before. The crystal beings began to change their song. Mixed with the notes of approaching death, they added harmonies of gratitude. Somewhere in the dark between the stars, beings from a dangerous world were racing toward them. The humans would not arrive in time. Everyone knew this, but they were coming anyway. That thought was perhaps the most alien thing of all. Chief Engineer had never pushed ship engines this hard in 15 years of service. The reactor readings on her display showed dangerous yellow numbers that should have been green. Warning alarms beeped constantly until she finally shut them off. Captain wants more speed, she told her engineering team in the bowels of the UES Indomitable. We need to cut 24 hours off our travel time. Petty Officer looked up from the power distribution panel. Chief, we're already running 10% over safety limits. Any more and we risk reactor breach. Studied the engine schematics on her screen. The other ships in the fleet were reporting the same problems. 18 human vessels pushing themselves toward a distant world, trying to achieve the impossible. What if we dump non-essential systems? Suggested Engineer Martinez. Life support in empty sections, artificial gravity in cargo holds, recreational facilities. Do it, ordered, and send a message to all departments. Anyone not on essential duty needs to move to the main areas. We're shutting down everything we don't absolutely need. Across the ship, humans began cramming themselves into smaller spaces. The crew quarters designed for comfortable living became crowded dormitories. Officers shared rooms meant for one person. The mess hall stayed open around the clock as people ate in shifts. Captain stood in the crowded bridge, watching the fleet status reports. Every ship commander was reporting the same modifications. The humans were stripping their vessels down to the bare essentials. Captain, called Lieutenant from her communication station. We're getting a transmission from the ethereal courts. Put it on screen. The image that appeared showed a being of pure light energy, beautiful and alien. High Ethereal L spoke in a voice like singing crystal. Human Fleet Commander, we have observed your course change. We must inform you that mathematical analysis confirms your rescue attempt will fail. You will arrive 24 hours after extinction. This sacrifice serves no purpose. Felt angry at the elegant alien's words. Thank you for the information. We'll continue on course. Commander, your species is known for bravery, But this is simple mathematics. Even if you push your primitive technology to destruction, you cannot cross space fast enough. Primitive technology raised an eyebrow. We'll see about that out. The transmission ended. Around the bridge, the human crew looked at their captain with determination. Primitive technology. They would show these energy beings what human engineering could achieve. All ships, announced on the fleet channel. Emergency protocols are now in effect. We're going to do something no other species would consider. We're going to feed our ships matter into the engines. In engineering sections across the fleet, humans began dismantling everything they could spare. Furniture, decorative panels, spare equipment, even personal belongings went into the matter conversion systems. The ships grew lighter and their engines burned brighter. Dr. Sarah, the fleet's chief medical officer, made an announcement that shocked the other galactic powers monitoring their transmissions. All personnel not on essential duty will enter suspended animation. This will reduce life support requirements by 60% and allow us to redirect power to the engines. One by one, human crew members lay down in emergency sleep pods. The ships that had carried 1,800 active crew members now operated with skeleton crews of 200 each. The saved power went directly to the engines. On the Draconian Empire's monitoring station, General Orr watched in amazement. They put most of their warriors to sleep, he told his officers. They risk everything on a handful of crew. This is either brilliant or insane. Both, General, replied his tactical advisor. The humans are reducing their ships to flying engines. The Synthetic Confederacy ran new calculations as they observed the human fleet modifications. Remarkable, announced Central Processing Unit Delta 9. The humans have increased their fleet efficiency by 37% through desperate measures. However, this still leaves them 18 hours short of their goal. But the humans were not finished. Chief stood before Captain with a proposal that made even the experienced captain pause. We can push the reactors to 40% over safety limits, explained. It means we'll probably burn out the engines when we arrive, maybe worse, but we might cut another 6 hours off our time. What's the risk of reactor breach? Asked. 15% chance during the journey, higher if we maintain those power levels after arrival. Looked around her bridge. Every officer met her gaze with steady determination. These people had volunteered for deep space service knowing they might never see Earth again. They understood the risks. Do it, ordered. All ships to implement maximum power protocols. The human fleet's engines began glowing white-hot as power levels climbed into the red danger zone. Their exhaust trails became visible streams of superheated plasma. The ships themselves began vibrating from the massive energies flowing through their systems. The galaxy watched in fascination and horror as the humans turned their vessels into controlled bombs racing through space. They will destroy themselves, whispered High Ethereal L. Perhaps, agreed her counselor, but they will die trying to save strangers. There is something beautiful in such madness. On Prime, they monitored the human approach with growing amazement. Their crystal forms shifted through color patterns of wonder and fear. They sacrificed their ships, reported. Their vessels may not survive the journey. High Resonator's body glowed bright blue with hope. Calculate their new arrival time. The numbers appeared on their organic crystal displays, sang a note of disbelief. 68 hours, she announced. They will arrive 4 hours before the harvester completes its consumption. Across Prime, the death song stopped. For the first time in days, the crystal beings sang notes of possibility. In the deep monitoring stations of the galaxy's major powers, beings watched the human fleet with new respect. The ethereal courts began studying human psychology files. The Draconian Empire opened communication channels to discuss military cooperation. The Synthetic Confederacy started cultural exchange programs. But aboard the human ships, no one celebrated yet. They were still racing death across the void, their vessels pushed beyond all reasonable limits. Engine failures happened hourly. Life support systems operated on backup power. The ships vibrated so hard that crew members had to strap themselves to their stations. And still they flew faster, pushing their technology and themselves beyond what should have been possible. 67 hours to prime, reported Navigation Officer, his voice steady despite the ship shaking around him. Captain gripped her command chair as another power fluctuation sent tremors through the hull. Any word from the other ships? The Calgary reports reactor instability. The Soul has lost artificial gravity completely, but all vessels are maintaining course and speed. Through the bridge viewports, could see the stars streaming past in lines of light as their speed pushed the limits of their compensators. This was the fastest any human ship had ever traveled. It might also be the last journey for many of them. 3 hours to spare, she murmured. Let's see if we can make them count. Behind them, their plasma trails carved bright lines across space, the signature of a species that refused to accept the impossible. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a shower of sparks and failing systems. Captain felt the UES indomitable shudder as damaged engines finally stopped their impossible burn. Around her, bridge officers worked frantically to restore normal operations. Engineering reports reactor temperature critical, called Lieutenant. We need immediate shutdown for cooling. Not yet, replied, staring at the main screen. Look at that thing first. Before them hung Prime, a beautiful world of crystal formations that caught starlight and scattered it in rainbow patterns. But between the human fleet and the planet loomed something from nightmare. The Harvester was larger than had imagined. The machine stretched across space like a metal moon, its surface crawling with mechanical arms and cutting tools. Massive collection beams reached down to Prime's surface, stripping away chunks of land and feeding them into processing centers. My God, whispered Navigation Officer, how do you fight something like that? Chief Science Officer Dr. Rand scans from her station. The readings made her face pale. Captain, this machine is actively consuming the planet's crust. Those arms are each the size of our entire ship. And the energy readings. What about the energy readings, Doctor? It's using the planet itself as fuel. The more it consumes, the stronger it becomes. No wonder the defense fleet was destroyed so quickly. Admiral's voice came over the fleet communication channel. The fleet commander's ship, the UES Defiant, had taken heavy damage during their desperate journey. All ships report status. The responses painted a grim picture. Every vessel in the fleet had pushed beyond safe limits. 3 ships reported critical reactor problems. 5 had lost main weapons systems. All of them were running on emergency power. Admiral said over the channel, permission to conduct close reconnaissance of the target. Granted, but stay out of range of those collection beams. Ordered her ship closer to the Harvester. As they approached, the true scale of the machine became clear. It was not just large, it was enormous. The mechanical arms reaching toward Prime were each several kilometers long. The main body of the machine disappeared into darkness, too vast to see completely. Captain, Doctor called out, I'm detecting movement on the machine's surface. It's repairing itself. Watch this section where some debris hit it. On the screen, they watched metal flow like liquid across the Harvester's hull. Damage that should have taken weeks to fix healed in minutes. Adaptive technology, Doctor explained. The machine learns from every attack and becomes stronger. That's how it survived for thousands of years. Lieutenant Commander, the tactical officer, studied his weapons display. Captain, I'm running attack simulations. Our missiles and energy weapons would barely scratch that hull, and if the machine adapts to our weapons, we'd be useless after the first shot finished. So we need a different approach. A transmission came from Prime's surface. High resonator crystal form appeared on the main screen, his body shifting between colors of gratitude and despair. Human fleet, you have traveled farther and faster than thought possible. We sing harmonies of amazement for your arrival, but you must not sacrifice yourselves uselessly. This machine cannot be defeated by force. Study the alien's crystalline features. How long until it finishes consuming your planet? 4 hours until the deep mining begins. Once the harvester reaches our core cities, my people will have perhaps 30 minutes before extinction. 4 hours. Looked around her bridge crew. These humans had crossed impossible distances to arrive with 4 hours to spare. Now they had to find a way to stop an unstoppable machine. Doctor, you've been quiet. Any ideas? The science officer stared at her readings. Captain, we can't destroy this machine with conventional weapons, but maybe we don't need to destroy it. Explain. The harvester's greatest strength is its adaptability. It learns from every attack and becomes stronger. But what if we could turn that strength against itself? Admiral's voice interrupted. All ship commanders to secure channel. We need to discuss options. The fleet's senior officers appeared on screen as holographic projections. Admiral looked tired but determined. Commander Torres of the UES Defiant, Commander Park of the Soul, and 12 other ship captains waited for orders. People we're facing something that destroyed entire empires. Our weapons can't penetrate its defenses. Our ships are damaged from the journey. Anyone have suggestions? Commander Torres spoke first. We could try ramming attacks, overload our reactors and take out sections of the machine. Suicide runs won't work, replied Commander Park. The thing repairs itself too fast. We'd lose ships for nothing. Doctor raised her hand. Admiral, I have a different proposal. What if we let the machine capture our ships? The channel went silent. Every officer stared at the young scientist. Explain that, Doctor, said carefully. The harvester consumes technology to improve itself. It takes apart ships and adds their capabilities to its own systems. But what if one of those ships carried a computer virus designed specifically for adaptive systems? Began to understand. You want to poison it. Exactly. I've been working on adaptive security protocols for our fleet computers. The virus I've developed attacks systems that learn and change. If we could get it into the harvester's central processing core, it would turn the machine's adaptability against itself, Admiral finished. How would we deliver this virus? Doctor looked uncomfortable. Someone would have to volunteer their ship. Let the harvester capture them and feed the virus directly into its systems. Commander Torres did not hesitate. The Defiant volunteers. Maria said, You understand this is a one-way mission. Admiral, my ship took the most damage getting here. We're running on backup power and prayer. If we're going down anyway, let's take that thing with us. Studied the tactical display showing the harvester's massive form. Doctor, what are the chances this virus will work? Against a normal computer system, 90% success rate. Against something this advanced and alien, I honestly don't know. And if it doesn't work? Dr. Metz gazed steadily. Then Commander Torres dies for nothing, and the rest of us follow shortly after. The channel fell quiet as each commander considered the desperate plan. They had traveled across the galaxy to save strangers. Now they had to decide which of them would die to make that salvation possible. Admiral made the decision. Doctor, how long do you need to prepare this virus? 2 hours to modify it for the harvester's systems. Do it. Commander Torres, prepare your ship for voluntary capture. The rest of the fleet will provide distraction and cover. As the conference ended, looked out at the harvester again. The machine continued its methodical consumption of Prime, unaware that 18 damaged human ships were about to attempt something no other species had ever tried. They were going to feed themselves to the monster and hope it choked. Commander Maria Torres stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching Dr. Virus upload to their main computer. Around her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing their ship for its final mission. "Upload complete," Doctor announced from her temporary station. "The virus is integrated into your ship's core systems. When the Harvester tries to absorb your technology, it will get this as well." Torres nodded. "How long before the virus takes effect?" "Unknown. It depends on how quickly the Harvester processes captured systems. Could be minutes, could be hours." "And if the machine is too alien for the virus to work?" Doctor did not answer directly. "Commander, I've done everything I can. The virus is designed to attack adaptive learning systems, but this machine is thousands of years old. It might have defenses we can't imagine." Torres looked around her bridge. 43 crew members had volunteered to stay aboard for the suicide mission. The rest had transferred to other ships in the fleet. These 43 humans were about to give their lives for a species they had never met before today. "Admiral to Defiant," came the voice over communications. "Are you ready?" "Ready as we'll ever be, Admiral." "Maria, it has been an honor serving with you." "The honor was mine, sir." Defiant out. Torres turned to her crew. "All stations, prepare for final approach. We're going to fly straight into the mouth of that monster." Through the main display, they could see the Harvester growing larger as they approached. The machine's collection beams swept across space, grabbing debris and small asteroids to feed into its processing centers. Soon, one of those beams would grab the Defiant. On Prime's surface, the crystal beings watched the human ship's approach. High Resonator sang notes of sorrow and wonder. "They sacrificed themselves for us," he told the gathered. "Beings we had never met before today die to save our species." "Why would they do this?" asked. "What do they gain from our survival?" Crystal form shifted to deep blue, the color of profound mystery. "Perhaps that is what makes them different from all other species. They gain nothing except the knowledge that we will live." Across the galaxy, other civilizations monitored the human fleet's desperate action. The ethereal courts watched in fascination as the primitive species attempted something their advanced mathematics declared impossible. "They feed their own ship to the machine," observed High Ethereal L. "Either this is brilliant beyond our understanding, or they have lost their minds to desperation." The Draconian Empire's monitoring stations tracked every movement of the battle. General, or studied the tactical displays with growing respect. "The fight with honor," he told his officers. "They choose death for their enemies over safety for themselves. I begin to understand why their species survived their dangerous world." The UES Defiant moved into the Harvester's collection range. Massive mechanical arms, each the size of a building, reached toward the small human ship. Torres watched them approach with steady eyes. "Steady as she goes," she told her helmsman. "Let it take us." The first collection beam struck the Defiant's hull. Instead of destroying the ship, the energy wrapped around it like giant hands. The Harvester was designed to capture useful technology, not destroy it immediately. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported the damage control officer. "The machine is cutting through our armor." "Let it," Torres replied. "We want to be captured." The Harvester's arms pulled the Defiant closer to its main body. Through the bridge windows, the crew could see the machine's surface in terrible detail. Cutting tools larger than their entire ship prepared to dissect their vessel. Processing chambers waited to digest their technology. "Commander," called the communications officer, "the fleet is requesting status update." "Tell them we're about to be processed. Virus delivery in progress." The Defiant shook as mechanical claws grabbed its hull and began pulling it apart. The ship's lights flickered as power systems were severed. Emergency power kicked in, bathing the bridge in red emergency lighting. "Hull breaches on all decks," reported damage control. The machine is accessing our computer systems now. Tors gripped her command chair as the ship around her began to come apart. Doctor, is the virus uploading? Data transfer in progress. The harvester is copying our entire computer core. The virus should be there. It's in their system now. A massive mechanical arm punched through the bridge ceiling, reaching toward the command center. Tors looked up at alien machinery that had destroyed countless civilizations. How long until the virus takes effect? She asked. I don't know. The machine has to integrate our systems before the virus can begin its attack. The bridge began filling with strange gas as the harvester's atmosphere processing systems took over. The crew put on emergency masks, but they all knew this was the end. Admiral Tors said into her communicator, "This is Defiant. Virus delivery complete. We're about to lose main power." Understood, Defiant. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. The harvester pulled the UES Defiant deep into its processing centers. The human ship disappeared into mechanical chambers designed to break down captured vessels and add their technology to the machine's growing capabilities. For several minutes, nothing happened. The harvester continued its consumption of Prime as if the human attack had failed completely. Then small changes began to appear. Admiral, Doctor called from the UES Indomitable. I'm detecting fluctuations in the harvester's collection beams. The virus is starting to work. Admiral watched the tactical display as the massive machine began showing signs of distress. All ships, prepare for combat operations. If this virus works, the harvester might become vulnerable. But the virus was working slowly, too slowly. The harvester's collection beams stuttered for a few seconds, then resumed their steady consumption of the planet below. The machine's adaptive systems were fighting the infection. Doctor ran frantic calculations on her console. Admiral, the virus is being contained. The harvester's systems are too advanced. They're isolating the infected areas and cutting them off from the main processing core. How long until the virus is completely neutralized? At this rate, 30 minutes, the machine will purge the infection and continue operating normally. Admiral felt despair settle over him. Commander Tors and her crew had died for nothing. The virus was failing, and the harvester would complete its consumption of Prime. On the planet's surface, they sensed the approaching failure. Their crystal songs changed from hope back to despair as the harvester's collection beams resumed full power. But Captain was studying the tactical display with growing determination. Doctor, what would happen if we gave the virus a bigger push? What do you mean? The virus is working, but too slowly. What if we physically damaged the harvester's main processing center while the virus was still active? Would that help it spread? Doctor's eyes widened as she understood. A kinetic impact to the central processor might disrupt the containment systems. The virus could spread throughout the entire network before the machine could stop it. Admiral looked at his fleet status. 17 ships remained, all damaged from their impossible journey, against a machine that had destroyed entire empires. Captain, he said slowly, are you volunteering the Indomitable for a ramming attack? Looked around her bridge crew. These humans had already sacrificed everything to reach this distant world. Now she was asking them to finish what Commander Tors had started. The Defiant opened the door, she announced to her crew. Now we kick it down. Anyone who objects to a ramming attack can transfer to another ship. Not a single crew member moved from their station. Admiral said, request permission to ram the harvester's main processing center. Felt pride and sorrow mix in his chest. These humans refused to accept defeat, even when facing impossible odds. Permission granted, Captain. Make Tors' sacrifice count. The UES Indomitable turned toward the harvester's central mass, its damaged engines building to maximum power one final time. Behind it, The rest of the human fleet prepared to follow their captain into the heart of the ancient machine. The final battle was about to begin. The UES Indomitable accelerated toward the Harvester's central processing core like a guided missile. Captain gripped her command chair as the massive alien machine filled there completely. "All power to forward shields," she ordered. "Engineering, I need everything the reactors can give us." Chief's voice came over the communication system from engineering. "Captain, we're already running critical. If I push any harder, we'll have a containment breach." "Do it anyway, Chief. We only need to hold together for 2 more minutes." Around the bridge, the crew worked with desperate efficiency. They had watched Commander Torres and 43 brave humans disappear into the Harvester's mechanical maw. Now it was their turn to follow. "1 minute to impact," announced Navigation Officer. "The machine is targeting us with defensive weapons." Energy beams lashed out from the Harvester's surface, striking the Indomitable's shields. The ship shook violently as alien weapons tried to stop the ramming attack. "Shields holding," reported Lieutenant from the tactical station, "but we're taking heavy damage." Doctor monitored her virus from the science station. "The virus is still fighting containment in the Harvester's systems. When we impact the central processor, it should disrupt their countermeasures completely." Looked around her bridge one last time. These humans had become more than her crew over 3 years of dangerous missions. They were her family. Now they were about to die together. "30 seconds to impact," called out. The Harvester's central processing core loomed before them like a mechanical mountain. Collections of alien technology and processing chambers stretched across its surface. This was the heart of the machine that had destroyed countless civilizations. "Captain," Lieutenant said, "it's been an honor serving with you." "The honor was mine," replied. "All hands brace for impact." The UES Indomitable struck the Harvester's central processor at maximum speed. The impact sent shockwaves through both vessels. The human ship's forward sections crumpled like paper, but its momentum carried it deep into the machine's core. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically as the Indomitable buried itself in alien technology. Found herself hanging upside down in her command chair, blood running from a cut on her forehead. Emergency lighting bathed the ruined bridge in red shadows. "Damage report," she called out. "Hull breached in 17 locations," reported from his damaged console. "Main power is gone. We're running on emergency batteries." "Doctor, did the impact work?" The science officer struggled with her damaged equipment. "I'm detecting massive system failures throughout the Harvester. The virus is spreading uncontrolled through their networks." Through the shattered bridge windows, they could see the Harvester's surface beginning to malfunction. Collection beams flickered and died. Mechanical arms moved erratically, striking the machine's own hull. Processing centers began consuming themselves. Admiral's voice came over the emergency channel from the remaining fleet. "Indomitable, report status." "We're alive," Admiral replied. "And the virus is working. The whole machine is tearing itself apart." Across the galaxy, monitoring stations watched in amazement as the ancient Harvester began its death spiral. The machine that had survived for thousands of years was destroying itself from within. On Prime, the collection beams stopped pulling at their world. High Resonator's crystal body shifted to brilliant gold, the color of overwhelming joy. "The humans have done it," he announced to his people. "The death machine dies and we live." In the ethereal courts, High Ethereal L observed the Harvester's destruction with something approaching awe. "They succeeded," she whispered to her counselors. "The primitive species accomplished what our most advanced calculations declared impossible." The Draconian Empire's monitoring stations tracked the machine's final moments. General Orr roared with approval as he watched the ancient enemy finally fall. "The fight like true warriors," he declared. Their honor burns brighter than the stars themselves. The Harvester's destruction accelerated as Dr. Virus turned every adaptive system against itself. The machine that learned from every attack was now learning how to destroy itself more efficiently. Explosions rippled across its surface as processing centers overloaded. The central core, where the Indomitable had embedded itself, began to tear apart. Mechanical systems that had operated flawlessly suddenly forgot their purposes and began consuming critical components. "All ships clear the area," Admiral ordered. "That thing is going to explode." The remaining human fleet pulled back as the Harvester entered its final death throes. The machine twisted in space like a wounded animal, its massive arms striking blindly at enemies that no longer existed. Inside the Indomitable, Captain and her crew felt the Harvester's death through their damaged hull. The ancient machine systems shrieked and failed around them. "Captain," Doctor called out, "we need to evacuate. The Harvester's power core is destabilizing. When it goes, it'll take everything within 50 kilometers. How long do we have?" 5 minutes, maybe less. Looked around her ruined bridge. The Indomitable was too damaged to fly away from the explosion, but perhaps they could save the crew. "All hands abandon ship. Emergency transporters to the fleet." Across the ship, humans ran for the transporter rooms. The damaged systems could only move small groups at a time, and the Harvester's interference made transport dangerous. "Captain's," first officer said, "the last transport pad is ready." "Get the crew out, Commander. I'm staying with the ship." "Sir, regulations require the captain to be the last to leave." Smiled at the young officer. "Then I guess you better hurry up and leave so I can follow regulations." The last of the crew vanished in the transporter beam, leaving alone on the dying ship. Around her, the Harvester's final screams echoed through the hull as the ancient machine tore itself apart. She looked out through the shattered bridge windows one last time. In the distance, she could see Prime shining with reflected starlight. The crystal world would live because 18 human ships had refused to accept the impossible. The emergency transporter shimmered to life, and Captain vanished just as the Harvester's power core reached critical mass. The explosion lit up the star system like a new sun. When the light faded, nothing remained of the machine that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years, only scattered debris and the memory of its destruction. The human fleet regrouped near Prime, their ships battered but victorious. Of 18 vessels that had begun the impossible journey, 11 remained. 7 had been destroyed or too damaged to repair. But they had saved an entire species. On Prime, they began building something new in their crystal gardens. They created formations that sang with the harmonic frequency of human voices, a memorial to the beings who had crossed impossible distances to save strangers. They called it the Memorial, and its song carried across their world like the sound of engines pushing beyond safe limits. In the days that followed, the galaxy began to change. The ethereal courts requested meetings with human diplomats to understand their psychology. The Draconian Empire offered military alliances and joint training programs. The Synthetic Confederacy began cultural exchange initiatives to study illogical heroism protocols. But perhaps the greatest change was in the emergency response systems across the galaxy. Every major civilization updated their procedures to include a new protocol. When impossible rescues were needed, call the humans first. Because sometimes, the galaxy needed beings who were too stupid to know when something was impossible. The human fleet began its long journey home, their engines repaired with crystal technology. Behind them, the crystal beings sang songs of gratitude that would echo across their world for generations. And in the deep monitoring stations scattered across the galaxy, beings waited and listened for the next distress call. After all, somewhere in the dangerous outer rim, A human fleet was always ready to hear it first.